Good morning. It's Wednesday, March 13th, 2024. We're here for the County Commissioners meeting. We have all three commissioners in the room and the county administrator and clerk of the board. Would you everybody please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I call the meeting to order. And adoption of the current agenda. Is there any additions or comments that want to be made on the approval of minutes?
I'd move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approval of minutes. Is there any additions or corrections?
Nope.
Hearing none. Approval of minutes passes. Approval of warrant registers, weekly and payroll rosters.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve fund expenditures in the amount of $330,431.58, and note that this has been reviewed by two members of the auditor's office and signed off by our administrator.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Only one today?
Just one.
All right. Is there anyone in the room for public comment?
Morning.
Good morning.
I was at the Republican County Convention a couple weekends ago and was told by one of the participants there, their 17-year-old child got a ballot to vote. So I'm just wondering if the auditor has updated the voting rolls and how accurate they are. Because there's no way, if somebody's 17-year-old's getting one, how many people that aren't eligible to vote are getting one? And it's not just our county, it's got to be the whole damn state. Thank you.
I believe I can answer his question. A 17-year-old is permitted to vote in a primary election, but not a regular election, and only if they'll be 18 by the time of the regular election.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room for public comment? Do we have anybody on the phone? Hearing none. All right. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve consent agenda items 1 and 2 as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor of consent agenda items passing, notify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Discussion? On number 2, position number 2, which district is that in?
Position number 2 is in District 1. It would be in my district.
All right, thank you for that clarification. All right, consent agenda items 1 through 2 pass. Moving on to regular business. Resolution 2024-059, interbudget transfer to the Sheriff's Office.
Reviewed last week's minutes and listened to your comments about the interpersonal budget transfer, so here I am.
Would you explain what is it that you want to do? The purpose, was it misappropriated or just in the wrong line item, or?
No, it's placed in the wrong line item, probably on purpose. Yeah.
Why would
You
somebody
don't
do
take
that?
you don't take car money and put it in a overtime budget. It needed to be moved so we could purchase the car. So if you want me to explain it, it's all out, it's all there. You all approved in November the purchase of a vehicle at $60,000, and we went out and found an economical purchase, which is to buy a vehicle, and we bought it. And then when we went to go fill out a purchase order, we couldn't find the $60,000, so we called the auditor's office and said, "Where's the $60,000?" And we were told that it was moved into an overtime budget, so we couldn't use it because there was no capital outlay expenses approved by the commissioner's office. But that's not true. First of all, a car's not a capital outlay item, it's a car. It's issued to our deputies when they're hired. It's part of it's their office. And so we're just asking that the money be moved into the appropriate line items so we can pay for the car. For now, we're using the state, federal, or gas tax money that's sitting in our budgets. It's earmarked, if you will, for the sheriff's office, for the purchase and maintenance of cars, et cetera. So this is just a request to move the money so we can pay the purchase order. I understand that you had questions about patrol cars and,
Oh, I was just asking, I mean, does each officer, do they have their own car, or do they share cars, or?
no, each officer has their own car by collective bargaining agreement, and because of the vastness of the county and the need to call deputies on a moment's notice to respond to emergent situations, everybody has a car. Always has been that way.
I'm only asking so that I know. Do they take the cars home, or do they stay here?
Nope, they take the cars home by collective bargaining agreement.
All right. All right, any other further questions?
I asked a couple questions last week. Would you mind answering them?
Sure, go ahead. Which ones?
No,
do
I
you
asked
want?
him last week. You said you reviewed the film, so you should know the questions.
Mr. Didier, you're gonna have to get up earlier in the morning to get it.
Am I? Okay, the questions were, number one, this is for a bailiff, correct?
No, it's for a deputy.
Oh, this said before, when it was handed out last meeting, it was for the bailiff.
It's for a deputy who has a bailiff assignment.
Because bailiffs work in the courthouse, and I'm curious why they would have to have a car. Number two, if they're working in the courthouse is only open 9 to 5, so why do they need overtime? But if it's a deputy, then that makes a whole nother,
Well, it's a deputy. You could go upstairs right now and you'll see a deputy sheriff up working in the courtrooms. So they are a deputy and they have a requirement to respond to all emergent situations.
okay, so there's my next question. If they're in the courtroom and they respond to an emergency, who's going to be in the courtroom?
It depends on the circumstances. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm the one that makes those decisions.
yeah,
Yep. Not you. I make them.
okay. And we make the decision whether you get these funds.
You've already approved the funds by law.
Well, you know, we're really trying to figure out how we can cut here and there to make this county work efficiently, because we are, as you proclaimed on social media, in a budget crisis. I'm curious, what training did we get down there in Reno?
I went to a sheriff's conference,
Oh, we
a
were told,
Western States Sheriff's Conference, and again, I don't have to answer to you what I do with my
well, I think
training.
you do, Sheriff, because we hold your purse string. And if
Hold the
we're in
purse
a-
strings.
If we're in a budget crisis and you're putting it out there on social media, how terrible we're running the county, we're wanting to know why you're traveling down to Reno and taking your support staff with you. Are we paying for all that, the taxpayers?
You are.
Okay. No more questions.
Questions?
No questions.
No further questions. I will look for a motion. Hearing none, the motion fails due to a lack of a motion. Regular business, Resolution 2024, Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Gonzalez?
Thank you, Chair. I've been keeping busy the past couple of days. Harris White Leisure has been in town, so had some really good conversations with them about a marketing plan and how sales are going and what the future looks like. So that was very fruitful. Other than that, between trying to balance the budget and working with various stakeholders, things are very busy, and I continue to move the county forward. Thank you.
Commissioner Baumann?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Busy last week. The gentleman that's been here a number of times, Mr. Stockwell, met with him and about some of his ideas he thought that he had that could be beneficial to Franklin County. Multiple meetings with our Government Affairs Director, Jason Valentine, and really wanted to say what a good job Mike and Jason did in procuring $3 million in grant funding for the HAPO Center. Just really proud of the way that they worked hard on that on behalf of Franklin County, and it was in jeopardy a number of times, and due to their hard work and persistence, we've got that funding secured, so really thankful for that. Last week also did the Shoreline Reconveyance Working Group meeting over at Tridec, and meeting with the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, as well as the Yakima tribes and the different stakeholders from the city of Richland, Kennewick, Pasco, Benton County, all of the stakeholders, and really trying to learn and understand what the shoreline reconveyance, what it means, how it works, and what our role is in that. Met with McKinstry last week for multiple hours talking about the HAPO Center, the project that's underway that is not yet complete, and what some of the pieces are that remain to be completed there, and still waiting on some of the components that are needed for them to finish the work there. Also met with the Treasurer's Office and about the CPACE program that was presented last week, trying to learn and understand that better. And still have some additional learning to do on that. The further I get into that, the more that it looks like a great program that would help development in Franklin County. And as far as I can tell, it has absolute zero risk to the county. So still working on that. Met with IS about one of the contracts that we passed last week. Contracts are really important. Details in contracts are really important, and in reading there was some information that was not in that contract that subsequent to that, with further was able to find some further information with our PA's office, and found that information that was looking for to make sure that contract was adequate. And multiple other meetings and Zooms along the way. That's my report. Thank you.
Just one question on the $3 million grant. Is that a matching funds grant, or?
That is not, my understanding, that is not a requirement of it, although we do have the .09 funds that we would be able to match that and then some. And so that is not a requirement of the grant. It came from our state representatives, or was able to put it in the capital budget to get those funds allocated to the HAPO Center for, specifically for heating and air conditioning in the arena side of the center. And so not sure yet, because we haven't got bids and so forth, but not sure yet if that's adequate to fully, do the work on that side. But with that specific grant, I do not believe that there's any matching funds requirement.
All right, thank you. That is a very good news to hear.
It was a good week. I'm pretty sure several of us did the happy dance.
All right. Yeah, because as most everybody knows, the arena site has never had air conditioning since they built the building.
Yep.
So, thank you. Commissioner Didier.
Pretty light week, agenda meeting on Monday, and then met with HWL yesterday. Had a really good meeting with them, and I'm very pleased that we are working with HWL and the HAPO Center, and I think we're going to have a very successful HAPO Center because of it. Last time I talked to Mr. Davidson, Cameron Lee is doing incredibly well and gaining weight, so I am very, very happy to report that. Also would like to report last night at 3 a.m. in the morning, I have a brand new grandson. So it was a good day. That was today though. That was 3 a.m. this morning. And then I would like to say congratulations on that $3 million grant. And I'd also like to add that those 3 initiatives that I spoke of a few meetings ago are now into law. We had 6 initiatives that were proposed. 3 of them, the legislature over there is realizing that the people are speaking, and they're speaking very loud. Each initiative pulled in 800,000 signatures. It was a record across the United States. So the people of Washington are speaking. And 3 of those initiatives are already now law. The police can pursue. Parents have a right to their child's education, transparency, and then no income tax. Those are law. And the legislature pulled the ability for commissioners to raise the property tax 3%. They pulled that off the table. There are 3 initiatives now that are going to go on the ballot for the voters to vote on. With 800,000 signatures on each one of them, I think the 3 of us ought to put together a support letter for those 3 initiatives, that encouraging our voters to vote for them. Because I think it's something that we need to go with the people. After all, our country is we the people. The Constitution, first 3 words, we the people. So I think we should put together something in supporting in that. And then last but not least, I'd like to read this from a constituent, a neighbor of mine, that sent me this the other day that really hit home. I became confused when I hear the word service used with all these agencies. Internal Revenue Service, U.S. Postal Service, Cable TV Service, Civil Service, Federal, State, City, and Public Service, Customer Service. This is not what I thought service meant. But today I overheard 2 farmers talking, and one of them said he had brought a bull to service the cows. Bam! It all came into focus. Now I understand what all those agencies are doing to us. You are now enlightened as I am. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. So this last week, I met with Mr. Stockwell, the same as Commissioner Bauman did. I also had the Greater Columbia Behavioral Health meeting, the chair meeting with Mr. Gonzalez, chamber luncheon, met with Harris White Leisure about the future of the track facility, and I think it's very encouraging and looking forward to the ideas that they have. And I also want to make a shout out to the Visit Tri-Cities. Their visitor guide is out, and it's absolutely beautiful. They've done a great job. And so if you haven't had a chance to see it, I would go take a look at it, because they did a fantastic job on it. All right, moving on to administrative office business. Mr. Gonzalez?
None today, sir.
All right. Public comment. Is there anyone in the room for public comment?
Matt Beaton, the Franklin County Auditor. First, a quick update that we had our primary election last night. The preliminary results, we had a 22% turnout, which I believe was quite a bit lower than the last. Of course, we have the ballots coming in today. One of the biggest things people were upset about this cycle, although it was there the last cycle as well, people were pretty upset about marking the outside of the envelope. So we had quite a few that did not want to participate in that. So we had a lot of challenge ballots based on that, a pretty high percentage, which wasn't uncommon. When we looked last night, there may well have been as many as, 7% of our ballots that were returned were challenged because they didn't mark a party preference. And a lot of times that's just kind of a protest vote. But anyway, I wanted to give that update, partly because that gets to what we have basically one of the preeminent election centers in the state. We've been visited. It's, for a county of this size, this county has invested a lot of money in it. And I would like to right now make a very specific ask of this board right now, and that is to please table this process that's going on to try to sell the annex. I think we have the cart ahead of the horse on this. I realize it's within your purview to make these real estate decisions, but kind of like last week on the budget, I did bring some stuff to hand out to you guys. Number one, it's MRSC talks about selling surplus county property. And I know that this particular building is not surplus. So that doesn't mean you still don't have the authority to do it, but it means, we've had informal discussions over time, and I get this has gotten a lot further down the road. I was surprised to find out, we have a realtor, we're seeking out people to make bids. Someone was in there measuring. I realize that some of these informal discussions have moved quite a ways down the line. And I understand Consor said to sell stuff. I'm not sure. I'm concerned. I haven't seen any of the financial due diligence on making this transition. And as the auditor, and having been there for 14 years, and I know the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we have put into the building, and I know there's talk about how to transition and all that, I just want to, I want to ask this board to slow this process down formally until we can get in place the understanding of the transition and where we're going, how we're going to save the money, and how it makes sense, whether to surplus a building that's not surplus. And so, the idea that we're going to sell and rent back is foreign to government, at least in my mind, when you ask people about it. So it just seemed like, there is, in fact, one of the things I'll give you that came off of this MRSC, I printed it, which was Benton County actually has a policy on how it's one of the things we can do instead of relying directly on the law. And they can, I'm sure the PA can help on that, but it gives a process to the rest of us so we know the steps, and the public knows the steps on, when I mention to people they're going to sell the building and yet we're using it, it comes as a surprise to people. And so, but that doesn't necessarily mean it shouldn't be analyzed and looked at. But as the auditor, I certainly haven't been privy to any deep dive into the numbers, which is what I'm interested in, which is how this makes sense to sell and rent back for a process. Governments is perpetual. We're going to run elections for a long time, and I haven't had a chance to. We've used a lot of grant money down there. I don't know if we have to pay that back. That'll be part of the calculation. When you take grants, and I don't know if our tenant down there, we need to dig into, are we going to have to pay them back, or, and all those negotiations. And so I'm hoping that as this goes along, that maybe the auditor and the election center could have a seat at the table with you guys, a workshop, whatever you want to do to kind of start putting these issues out there. So I'll hand this out.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We're not supposed to have dialogue, but I'd like to ask you a question. Why was that put on the outside of the ballot to mark as a Republican or Democrat? And maybe our auditor can answer that question for you.
I would have the same question because I hate to admit it. I didn't see to mark the outside of the ballot.
I've had people call to me and ask me, why are we doing that? And my explanation was that to keep people from switching over to the other party and influencing that vote. I don't know if that was the reason why, but that's the answer I gave them. Maybe our auditor can answer that for us.
I can answer very quickly. There's an act, I believe, and I can send you guys an article that summarizes all of it. I think it was in 2019. There was some legislation passed. You know, this primary is a political election done on behalf of the parties. And so sometimes people, you know, they take it very personal. They want to participate in it. But in fact, you know, essentially it's a party election, and everybody that marks, it's on a list, it's available for 90 days. And so I received quite a few calls myself. People were upset. I mean, they're like, I don't want to mark this. And I said, well, put it in the Dropbox, you know, and no one's going to see it other than, you know, the mailman, if you put it in the mail. Well, they don't want to mark it. And I said, well, you know, we make a list that's public. I mean, and you know, you can go look at it. It's statewide. And it's there for 90 days, and then it goes away. But a lot of people, a lot of the parties grab that, and it's for political purposes. So that was by the legislature. It was there in 2020, and it's there now. And so it's a legislative, it was the way I understood. I've got an article that summarized it, but I mean, it's not our call, and so.
So what happens to those ballots that weren't marked on the outside?
Well, they're challenged, so as a member of the canvassing board,
So
I would
you're
suggest
saying
you
it's
come
gonna
in
be-
and
it's
fill
gonna
out
be a
your
long-
challenge,
it's gonna
your
be a long
challenge
day.
form. You know what I mean? Because I think, and I talked with staff last night, and they were like, I mean, we have like, not the highest, but one of the highest challenge, you know, ballots, and a lot of them were not, they didn't mark it. Now, I don't know if maybe it was an oversight for some people. I mean, that's how that works, but
Yeah, I
there's
didn't, I admit
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
well, and we send the forms out, and you haven't through certification to cure those ballots. But I know there was a certain amount of them in. I noticed in Adams County, and I think we found 3 or 4 other counties that was up in the 7% range for challenge ballots. And it's interesting. I'll send you the information off of the state Secretary of State compiles really good data on it. So, but yeah, it was very unpopular. I don't know if by the next time we get to the next 4-year cycle, whether the legislature will do something about that. But if the parties, want to address concerns, they'll certainly look into that, because it was very unpopular this year with people that are independent minded, and so that's it.
Was there a spot for independents?
No, but I mean, I was talking with someone this morning. I said, independent by definition doesn't have a party.
All right.
So I don't know who's out fighting for you. When you're independent, you usually come together around single issues, but it's really hard by virtue of that title to work together.
And what was the ballot count as of last night?
Last night we had 22%. We were at 10,000. And that was, we had to pick up the boxes today. There's usually a surge on election night. So we're doing that today. So I can come back next week and give an update.
So one other question, if you're picking up the ballots today, I thought the deadline to vote was 8 o'clock last night.
Right. We secure the ballot boxes at night. And then we lock them down. You can't put any more in.
Okay.
And then they're going to come in through the mail as well. We'll get hopefully, of course, we tell people to not drop them in the mail yesterday unless you have them hand canceled, because it's either delivered into the drop box or the postmark is what we're checking. So
Sure. All right.
anyway, thank you guys for the
Yep,
extra time.
thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Is there a need today for executive session?
Yes, sir. We have the need for 2 separate executive sessions, totaling 30 minutes. The first one, RCW 42.30.110, subsection I, potential litigation. And then the second one, sir, is RCW 42.30.110, subsection B, selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate.
All right, at this point, we'll go into executive session for approximately 30 minutes. I'll ask that the complete Board of County Commissioners, County Administrator, and Legal be in attendance. Is there anyone else that you would like?
At some point, the HWL group will need to be in here, but they can exit for momentarily, and then we can call you guys back in.
Do you want to do theirs first?
Yeah,
way
why
there.
don't we do your guys, because I know you've got some meetings scheduled. That's a good idea.
Yeah, let's have you stay first, and then that way you don't have to wait for us.
What's the second? 423110. Same subsection.
Good morning, gentlemen. We've come out of an executive session with no decisions being made. We're going to go back into executive session under the same RCW code for approximately 20 minutes.
So same RCW and then extend, yep, extend for 10 minutes. Doors open. Doors open.
We've come out of executive session, no decisions.
Under the same RCW.
you. I'll open the door.
We've come out of an executive session with no decisions being made. Is there any further business for the good of the county?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to ask Mr. Gonzalez to draft a letter in support of the 3 initiatives that are going to be on the ballot and that we could maybe review and sign next week.
You got it. I'll get to
Thank
work
you.
on that, sir. Thank you. No more business for the county, from my perspective, Chair.
Sir, Mr. Chair.
All right, with no more business for the good of the county, this meeting is now adjourned.